Hello, everyone. Let's talk nutrition adaptation and training adaptation, and nutrition and training adaptation together. But firstly, let's talk about nutrition adaptation because you have to be nutritionally adapted before you even think about doing any kind of training or increasing any kind of training that you're already doing. So, firstly, you have to get your nutrition adapted. And the best way to do that is to do it slowly and incrementally over time. Can you remember the ladder, the nutrition ladder? So when we talk about the nutrition ladder, it's all about working out where you are on that nutrition ladder. We always want everybody to aim for the very top, the predominantly animal-based nutrition, because that's where all the nutrient density is. That's where you're going to get all of your essential fats and all of your essential proteins for building muscle, for achieving your body composition goals, and the best possible health that you could require. So to adapt to that, you have to find out where you are on the ladder. Now, quite a lot of people are going to be at the bottom of that ladder, and most of their nutrition is going to consist of processed foods. Even if you think, well, that's not me, I don't really have many processed foods in my nutrition. I've worked with people now for a long time to realize that that is probably not true. When somebody comes and says, "I don't eat many processed foods," and then gives you a diary, a weekly diary of what they have eaten for the last week, it would look something along the lines of 80-20% processed foods. It's all about realizing what are processed foods and what are not processed foods, what are actually real foods. There's quite a lot of people that still believe bread is an essential in everyday nutrition. And bread, as it is today, is so much of a processed food and it takes up so much of everybody's nutrition. If you think about it, the general person will come to you and say, "I don't eat much processed food." Yet they'll say they had toast for breakfast, sandwiches for dinner, and then maybe some kind of pasta or grains or wheats again for tea. Look on what the ingredients list are. And if there's four or more ingredients, or even if there are ingredients there that you do not recognize, then it is a processed food. Real foods are the ingredients. They are the things that do not have ingredients. They are the ingredients themselves. It's finding out how much of your nutrition is processed food and how much is real food, and then refining that into predominantly real foods. Get rid of all those processed foods. They're not doing you any good at all. They're not helping you reach any kind of body composition goal. They're not helping you reach any type of health. All they're doing is hindering your progress. So get rid of those and switch over to real foods. Now, again, this is probably going to be best done incrementally. So the processed foods you can get rid of straight away, take them out for your first week. And then as the weeks go by, you can gradually take out all of the kinds of processed foods, like cereal in the morning or bread. And then when you've eventually got to a real food nutrition, you probably find that it's up onto the next step of the ladder, which is kind of plant based. Most people, when they switch over to real foods, end up being more plant based than animal based, simply because their body still tells them that the best way to run is on carbohydrates. We know it isn't. We know the best way is without carbohydrates. But when you're switching your nutrition and adapting your nutrition as we are, then you have to do it gradually. There is some people that can switch straight away from a processed food nutrition and switch it straight over to an animal-based lifestyle, but they're very few and far between. Now, once you're at that next level on the ladder, then it's time to refine again. Like I say, this may be weeks down the line. As you've done it nice and slowly, it's the best way for habits to stick. So weeks down the line, when you are at a more of a real food-based type of nutrition, then it's time to start to refine it. Start to have more meals based around animal foods. Start to limit the amount of fruits and vegetables you have in your nutrition. As we know, fruits and vegetables are laced with toxins, oxalates, lectins, all kinds of chemicals, which actually hinder the body's ability to digest the food properly and take the vitamins and minerals that are in these fruits and vegetables, but it's our inability to take these vitamins and minerals from the fruits and the vegetables because they are so tightly packed within a food matrix of chemicals. Actually, when we digest fruit and vegetables, we end up getting rid of most of the vitamins and most of the minerals because of the conflict within our digestive system that goes on. So if you're looking for a more nutrient dense to get more vitamins and minerals from your food, then the only way to do that is to find bioavailable vitamins and minerals which come from animal foods. So start thinking about adding more of those in. And once you started adding more animal foods in, then you can perhaps get into the habit of only eating a couple of times a day. There seems to be the thoughts among most people we must eat 3 times plus per day. But this is just generally not the case. Our digestive systems are not designed to work all of the time. They need a rest just like anything else. If you are strength training, or even if you're a runner or a cyclist or a swimmer, something like myself, you need that time to rest between your workouts, the time to adapt, and the time to be stronger is when you rest. So you must give this rest to your digestive system too. If it's constantly working, constantly battling against toxins, you're always going to have a weak digestive system. You need to make sure all of your bodily systems work well by ensuring all of them have rest at certain periods and certain times. You certainly wouldn't make sure your cardiovascular system was working hard all of the time. It just wouldn't be viable. So why do that to your digestive system? Give it plenty of rest. Eating once, twice a day on average is perfectly fine, and it is plenty for a human digestive system. Once you're eating the right foods, you'll find this comes with ease. So you can make this transition. Once you start adding in those animal foods, you can try and transition into something called intermittent fasting, which means that you have a long period of time, whether that be 16 hours, 18 hours, 20 hours, a long period of time when you are not eating at all, not digesting at all, not having coffees, teas, milk, anything in between, just completely off so your digestive system can have a rest. And then for the other hours of the day, you may want to eat 1 meal, 2 meals, whatever it is you feel like at the time. And this is all helping you climb that ladder to the very top where we are looking to be more animal based and potentially carnivore, which is often described as the optimal nutrition. Now, I've not really talked much about training throughout all of that because that's how far down the line you need to be before you start thinking about training. Even if you was an amateur athlete, an athlete beforehand, to do any particular training whilst you're going through that adaptation process is going to be very difficult because your body's going to be so used to using external carbohydrates to perform glycolysis instead of using the gluconeogenic system in which humans should predominantly use for ATP synthesis, or we could say energy. But really, energy is just a chemical process to allow movement. And your body can perform this chemical process with ease so that you have enough glucose to be able to exercise with whatever type of exercise you want to do. But as I say, training adaptation then comes at that very point. Once you have nutritionally adapted so that you're running on a lower carbohydrate nutrition, more real foods, then you can start to train and adapt. And even at that point, you may want to wait until you are predominantly animal based. So you are predominantly animal food based and you are eating no more than 2 meals a day. Then you can start train and adapt. Whereas before, you may have wanted to push out some high intensity work, either in the gym with strength or running, cycling, swimming, whatever you want to do. That high intensity work is going to be very difficult now as your body switches from using external carbohydrates to using its own glucose for fuel, to using its own glucose from gluconeogenesis. So the best way, not the only way, but the best way to train and adapt is again to do it slowly, to make sure that you are training at low intensity whilst your body is getting used to the nutritional adaptation. For some athletes, this might mean taking a couple of months off training altogether, which is why quite a lot of athletes don't like to do the nutritional and the training adaptation process, or why some athletes tend to do it over the winter time or the summertime, depending on what sports they play. The training adaptation process is best done slowly. So let's take running for an example. If you were to run all of the time, if you were, let's say, 5 days a week, you were a runner and you wanted to train 5 days a week, then whilst you're going through the nutrition adaptation process, it's best to drop that down to perhaps once or maybe even none whilst you nutritionally adapt. And then as you want to train and adapt, once you've climbed that ladder up to the animal base, which we mentioned, once you've climbed that ladder, then you want to add in some more training. It is best then to incrementally add in the training too. So you'll perhaps go back to 2 days a week, 3 days a week, 4 days a week, and back up to where you were 5 days a week, gradually over the course of a couple of months. But not only that, but also the intensity of your workouts should be very, very low. You should be, if you work to heart rate or power, they should be in the very low levels, level 1 and level 2. So that you're still getting out there, you're still doing the exercise, but you are doing it at a very low level. Because your body may take several months before it can actually fire properly from the gluconeogenic system to give you enough glucose to be able to match your previous PBs from having external carbohydrates, glucose. So you see, it is quite a slow process to train and adapt. And I'll talk more about heart rate zones and how to judge what kind of heart rate zone you should be working in and how much of a stress that puts on the body when you're training and adapting in another video to come. But you can see how much of it can be a long process. It's often why people fail or people just do not give it time to work. Remember, wherever you are now on the ladder, it's taken you all of your life to be there or to get there, or the habits you've built have made you be there on the ladder where you are. So, for example, if you're 40 years old, you've spent 40 years at that rung on that ladder. It's taken you 40 years to realize you're perhaps at the wrong rung on the ladder. So working your way up is not going to be easy, but it is most definitely worth it, and your health will thank you. The only time you know it's right is when you start doing it. Now, obviously, I can help you. I've got nutritional plans to help people. I can work with you for a number of weeks, however many weeks it takes. I can guide you through it all. But in an ideal world, I'd like everybody to be able to do it for themselves. So if you do want to work with me, then just get in touch. But if you don't, and you really want to take this on and really want to go yourself, then remember, it's an incremental process to be done slowly. And don't worry too much about your training until you are nutritionally adapted. Once you're nutritionally adapted, then you can go on to training adaptation. And training adaptation can work quite quickly once your nutrition is adapted. Be happy, be strong, and thrive. And see you next time.